Hey everyone, my name is a theme park evangelist. So this is my last official vlog until Tuesday, February 27th. I will be over at Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport. I'm going to be heading down to Orlando with a layover in Chicago. Katie has been kind enough to take me over there. Actually, I'm at her apartment right now. So as you saw in the title, which I haven't not officially figured out yet, but it's going to be titled along the lines of how has living here in Kentucky been more mentally stressful for me versus Florida? And if you haven't noticed, in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a watermark. And if you could just click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, that would help me out a lot. Go ahead and give that video a like as well. All right, so I lived in Central Florida from 1993 to 2019. Back in 2017, I went over to Tampa area, and I went and heard Ken Ham, the founder and CEO of Answers in Genesis, speak about One Race, One Blood, if I remember correctly. Excuse me. And then I spoke to the pastor afterwards, and I mentioned to him that me and my parents would really like to meet him, and he asked Ken Ham, and he actually agreed, and that's when my parents dropped the bombshell on me that they were thinking about moving up to Kentucky. Now, this was 5 months after I had been called by God to leave Central Florida. Now, why did I want to leave Central Florida? I had been fighting depression a lot down in Central Florida. Just having issues with the job I was at the time, and I wasn't necessarily going about solving my depression the right way. I was turning to a lot of worldly things, which I'm going to leave out, but needless to say, I felt like this was God's way of saying that I needed to move on with my life, so I am very thankful for that. So because I'm filming this with my iPhone and not my Chromebook, which I should have just brought with me, but oh well. I am using my back-facing camera, which has a much better camera on it than my front-facing camera, and I'm going to just quickly turn the camera so I can press the stop button at the very end. So that's why it wasn't turned right towards me at the very beginning. So anyway, back to where I was. So when I got this news, I was like so excited. I was like, yes, God, this is the answer I've been looking for. I've been really wanting to get out of the area, and I would absolutely love to go work for Answers in Genesis. And I really wanted to go work at the Ark Encounter. I had actually just visited it the summer of 2016. When around the time it opened. I actually went 3 days after it opened. I was held up dealing with some family issues in Canada, and finally made my way down to Williamstown, Kentucky. We spent the night in a microtel in Dry Ridge the night before, and then we went early the next morning. So I had really fallen in love with the Ark, and I thought it would be so neat to go and work there. So I started applying for the Ark right away, and even the Creation Museum. I just was determined to get in. And I made the mistake. I accidentally said in my job application that I had some issues at Disney World, and I was a little too honest, and Answers in Genesis got nervous that I was going to do the same thing, so they held off on hiring me. So I wanted to make sure that I still had a job when I got up to Kentucky from Florida. So I started looking at other possibilities. I started looking around to see what else they had. I started just looking around the area, like, okay, what restaurants are nearby, because I had never been to Kentucky other than on a couple of visits. So I started applying for Frisch's and dollar stores, anything I could think about that I knew I could do just to make sure I had some kind of job. And I found out from my dad that Kings Island was only about 45 minutes north of where I was going to be living, because I was originally living in a little city called, or town called Ellesmere, which is actually only 5-10 minutes away from where I'm currently at right now. Too funny that Katie moved so close to where I used to live 5 years ago. And I was like, well, that's perfect. So I went all the way up there for their job fair, and well, actually, I don't think I went there for their job fair, but I did apply, and I went there for a job orientation. So I sat in this room and I just waited around, and finally took a bunch of us, and they had us do team building projects, and only one person did not get hired. Everybody else, including myself, got hired. And the only position that, or department really, that they had available for me was games and arcade, because I really wanted to do guest services personally, but they didn't have that at the time. And I said, well, that's fine. They gave me 2 different possibilities. I did my interview afterwards, and that's when it became like legit and all that. So then they gave me the paperwork, and not even lying, it was the same day as they were doing this like employee appreciation day, and this massive storm showed up out of nowhere, and they ended up canceling the entire employee appreciation. And of course, because I had no clue where the employee parking lot was, I ended up parking on the guest parking lot. It took me 15 minutes to get back to my car. And then I had this wonderful call from my great uncle about how I should be doing better things with my life than working at a theme park. So that was nice. Not really. It's here or there. That was 5 years ago. And the important thing is, I did prove to him I could finish my associate's degree, and guess what? I did. I got my associate's degree. Yay! Actually, I officially have it at my place. But that was just a start, but I knew that Kings Island was a seasonal job, and I knew I couldn't stay there forever. And, I was still discouraged. I had just moved all the way up here. I left everything I ever had, and I ended up going back to my grocery store roots. And trust me, after working in a grocery store for almost 7 years, the last thing you want to do is go back to the grocery store business. And I ended up doing that, and I just didn't want to end up necessarily going back to something I had already done. And I found out about a place called Meijer. Now, keep in mind that it was only a few weeks after I had gotten hired with Kings Island. So this wasn't like immediate. And I had stayed with a close friend back when he was single in Centerville, Ohio. And he actually was a reason why I even knew about Meijer in the first place. He's the reason why I got introduced to Raising Cane's, which actually, speaking of which, I'm going to be vlogging the very first Raising Cane's in Orlando, Florida, a week from today. There's actually 2 locations. So they have one on not 182, but it's like a Popka Vineland Road, which is over by Disney Springs. And then they have another one on International Drive as well. And TJ and I have not made a final decision which location we're going to be going to, but I guess we'll figure that out when the time comes. And my close friend took me to Raising Cane's, and he told me to get the bread BBS, the bread BBS, and I said, "Excuse me, what does that mean?" He said, buttered on both sides. I said, okay, so I tried it out, and I really liked it. I mean, there were some good things that came out of it, and this is when I really hit emotional state. So even though I was with Kings Island, even though come mid-July, I got hired at Meijer, hired at Meijer anyway, and I was working full-time hours. It was about August till around August, September, and I knew my family was coming down from Canada to pay us a visit, but I just suddenly hit a depressive state. I'm laying there in bed one night and I'm thinking to myself, why am I here? I'm missing my friends. I'm missing my normal group. I was going to the same group for the past year or so, and then I was going to another group before that. I got tired of driving all the way to Kissimmee, Florida for a group, and then I fell in love with one in Winter Haven, Florida. I missed seeing some of my friends. I missed working at my job, even though I was kind of enjoying the new jobs. There's nothing like, familiarity. And I wasn't familiar with the area. I was not used to hearing I was used to hearing a train outside my house, but I wasn't used to a lot of things. I wasn't used to living in the state. I wasn't used to having deer hanging outside my room or my house. I especially did not like the idea of having a cemetery behind the house either. I didn't like my neighbors. Like, there was a lot of red flags I had when I first moved here, and I was just getting lonely, so I contacted TJ, and he was kind enough to come all the way up here just to spend time with me. And it was just too coincidental that he came up right around the time that my family got here. And they were coming here all the way from Canada just to see Newsboys United live in Troy, Ohio, which is an hour-ish north of where I'm currently living now. And, my mental state started to improve a little bit. I was like, okay, things are going well. And it was around that time that a guy who got hired with me at Meyer suggested to me, why don't you go full-time? And I was like, really? I can do that? And I spoke to the store manager. He and I were friends until he basically retired. And, sorry, I just got distracted for a second. I went up to him and I asked him about going full-time, and he literally pressed a button, boom, I was full-time. He said, oh, no hesitation with you whatsoever. You're an easy yes. He just clicked a button, boom, and as you heard. So I was just almost fell on the floor. I was so shocked. And my insurance rate, because I had just gotten insurance not even a month ago, went from over $100 a week to $40 a week. And that was at medical, dental, and vision. I was on a roll. I was getting really good benefits. I mean, my pay wasn't the greatest, but it was doable. I was struggling with rent, but I was making it work, and that's all that matters. And then, of course, COVID happened. That's when I was really thankful to be there, because I was making over 40 hours a week. But I was still discouraged because of the fact that I didn't want to come back to work and basically deal with who knows what. I mean, everybody has their own story of what happened during 2020. And just before COVID happened, I had gone down to Florida for the first time, and I was really chomping at the bit to go back home. And I was really glad I did. And then I came back, and I had tried to get into AIG again. And this time I actually went to the job fair, and they said, oh, we'll let you know in a few weeks. And that's all they said to me. So I went all the way down to the Arc. They have one at the museum, too. But I was, once again, determined to get into the Arc. So I tried for the second time, but first time in person. Yes.
Huh?
I thought you were trying to say something to me.
No, I just got hit with a blast with hot air.
What are you making in there?
Mozzarella sticks.
Oh, are you going to share?
Yeah, but I have very little sauce.
Oh, well. Katie got gluten-free mozzarella sticks from Target. Katie now lives 5 minutes away from Target. Now that's dangerous. I see her smiling in there. So,
I'm coming for you.
yeah, I bet they are. Hey, don't pay any attention to her right now.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. She doesn't like to be shown on camera, but she doesn't mind being, heard in the background. But yeah, 2020, I really don't have much to say. I was my very first Strawberry Festival vlog. But aside from that, so 2021 is when things really got interesting. By this point, I was at my breaking point with Meyer. I was determined to get out of there. And I was going on arcandgetter.com to find out when their job fair was, and I found out it was on Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. If this says anything, when I put in the time off request, I said to God, okay, God, if I do not get the time off request, because I just only wanted to work the morning. I wanted the afternoon off into the evening. Just in case. I knew I could make it just on time.
Where's Stu? Oh, there he is.
He's over there. Look at Katie brought me a. So if they denied my time off request and they said no, you have to work when we tell you to, then I was going to call off, which I never do, by the way, and I was going to drive all the way out there, but it was God's will for me to get a morning shift. I came in at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I worked till 2 o'clock or so in the afternoon, so about 8 hours. And I literally ran to my car, jumped in it, got on the interstate, and drove all the way down to exit 154 and went straight to the answer center. What I was not expecting was for my dad's former boss, Jerry, to find me and hire me within 45 minutes. I literally cried right in front of him. And I don't usually cry in front of another man. But Jerry ended up becoming a close friend of mine. So all just because of the fact that I used to work for him. And then I tried to stay with Meyer originally because I was full-time and I was only hired as a seasonal employee back then. And I didn't even start right away. So I didn't actually officially get hired. Like, even though I got hired on February 17th, my official hire date was not till March 22nd. It was originally supposed to be March 10th, but I once again went down to Florida. This time I went with my brother, and I'm over at Universal, and I got an email from them, and I just assumed it was one of those confirmation emails to say I got the job. So I just didn't think much of it, and I deleted it. And I read enough of it for me to see that I was supposed to be at the Ark on such and such date, which was March 10th, for orientation. So I get all the way over there March 10th, and they asked me if I did my paperwork. And I said, what paperwork? And they said, we sent it to you in that email. And that's when I had a flashback, an instant flashback, that I was supposed to have done that. And I was so mad. That meant 2 more weeks I had to work at just Meyer. And I had taken the day off, and I ended up calling up Meyer, and they're like, yeah, we can have you. And the whole time I was fuming. I didn't want to be at Meyer that day. I wanted to be at the Ark, and I was like, whatever. So I had a second chance. They said, don't worry, if you do your paperwork right now, which I did. I did it that evening. And make sure you get it to us like ASAP. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And I said, okay, that works. So I come back 2 weeks later, and I finally had my first official orientation day. So I'm almost at 3 years right now. And the whole time I was trying to bounce between Meyer and the Ark was honestly one of the most depressing times for me, because I had never expected to work in a Christian environment and a worldly environment. I had been exposed to a worldly environment for so long, and back then I didn't know how to cope with the worldly environment. I had never worked in a Christian environment in my life, and it literally brought me to tears. There was so many times I would come into work and I just explained how I was feeling and how I was being treated. The fact that they actually cared about me, and I was just so emotionally overwhelmed. I had never experienced anything like this in my life other than church. And I just didn't know what to think about it. And been offered free food before. I mean, yeah, I got free food from like Meijer and Publix, on from time to time, but this became a nightly thing where they would bring in leftovers from the dining room at the end of the day, and they said, okay, you got 5 minutes, get as much as you want. And when they say 5 minutes, they literally mean 5 minutes. So I definitely took advantage of that. Sorry, Katie's doing laundry too. Oh, good. You got sauce for me?
Just a little bit.
I'll take little more than nothing. By the way, there she is. So, needless.
That's Abby doing laundry.
Oh, Abby's doing the laundry. That's her roommate. She's not here right now, but yeah, I was overwhelmed, and finally, Jerry noticed that I was really emotionally struggling, so he pulled me aside. He basically offered me full-time hours, not going full-time, just full-time hours. And trust me, I jumped on it. I was so excited, and finally the time came when I gave Meijer my 2 weeks notice. Now, I would have done this sooner, but that was my only job. And I had actually tried to get out of the service department, another reason why I was going into depression. But unfortunately... Oh, okay. So I tried to get out of the service department before, but they were like, no, you can't do that. And when I finally did threaten to quit, that's when Meijer actually started taking me seriously. I wouldn't say that, my time with Meijer was the worst thing ever, but it wasn't the greatest thing ever either. And I'm still glad I had the opportunity. And I did go back and I gave them a second chance, and unfortunately it's better the first time around. So I've been with Answers in Genesis almost 3 years, and I've had a lot of ups and downs in the almost 3 years I've been with them. But to wrap this vlog up, since it's over 20 minutes long now, I am going to say that Answers in Genesis has really helped me grow my faith in God. I know that they are not always perfect, and they may not always demonstrate God's love unconditionally all the time. But you know what? We're human. We're all going to make mistakes. And at the end of the day, I've met so many friends, and I never expected to meet my soon-to-be wife 5 months after I got hired at the same place, and she came for the same reason I did. And Katie and I have had a lot of adventures together. We've had a lot of experiences over the years. There she is again. I don't know where she's going. Oh, to her room, which is where I need to be in a couple of minutes. But at the end of the day, I thank God for the past 5 years. It honestly started out really bad at first, but as the time has gone on, as I've met Katie, and we've gotten settled into a relationship and grown stronger together, and she started introducing me to things in her life, I would safely say that my love for Kentucky has grown stronger, and I'm really excited about the future that God has for Katie and I. Even though Kentucky may not always be in our future, North Carolina, yes, Mr. Beast, we're coming for you. JK, not really. So, even though North Carolina might be more so in our future, and Kentucky may not be in our future for much longer, I still thank God for the 5 years I have been here, and whatever time I have left here before I move on with Katie. But at least I know for a fact that God has a future for Katie and I, and at least in the foreseeable future that my YouTube channel is alive, you will see a lot of Katie, and I'm going to keep trying to show TJ on YouTube as much as I can. It's a lot harder now because with me living in a different state, and also with me, getting married soon and looking at getting children in the future, which honestly, if you had asked me that 8 years ago, I would have laughed at your face, because I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror without thinking I was worthless. But these days, I know that God has a reason for me, He has a reason for Katie, and He has a reason for you watching my vlog right now. So, always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great night. Peace out. I will see all of you next Tuesday, February 27th at Cincinnati, in Northern Kentucky International Airport.